Good evening and welcome to our February 15th, 2017 meeting of the Milton School Committee. As is our tradition, please join me in pledging allegiance to our flag and our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a few changes to the agenda. We're actually going to, under the superintendent's report, we're going to have the Milton High School Program of Studies first. And under executive session, we have, or we'll be deleting item C, and we will be deferring items A and B so that the superintendent can be present for those discussions. With that, Maura, do we have anyone for citizen speak? No. Okay. Superintendent's report, Assistant Superintendent Sheehan.
Thank you, Chairman Walker. So at this time, we would like to introduce Milton High School Principal, Mr. James Jett, and members of his leadership team, Ms. Karen Cahill, Ms. Amy Tom, and Ms. Barbara Wright.
So good afternoon.
Good evening.
Good evening. It's a long day when you don't see the sun. Good evening. As stated by Assistant Superintendent Janet Sheen, here with the leadership to bring forth to the school committee some proposed changes or additions to our program of studies that we hope that we can get approved so we could print it. For the most part, we've submitted just the changes to you, but we did give you a copy of last year's program of studies. Most things will be updated with the exception of a few changes that we will discuss by our department head. One change I do want to mention, and that is under the Performing and Fine Arts, and that's with Dawn Seitz. She did not come here this evening to share because it's not a change in the course, it's just a change in the name. As opposed to electronic keyboarding lab, electronic music lab, it is just called the music lab because we feel as though it's going to encompass more of the music program. So that's why she is not here this evening, but it is a change that we wanted to bring to your attention. So if we could start off with Barbara Wright, who is the director of our humanities department, and each person is going to talk about what the course is, why the change, what the importance, and what it entails. Thank you.
So, good evening. So I'm here to talk about a proposal for 2 new courses in the social studies department. And for years we had a year-long elective. It was once called Senior Seminar and then became known as Contemporary Issues. And so our proposal for next year is to make that course, instead of a year-long course, a semester-long course. So it will still be Contemporary Issues, it will still be a study of current events, but there are 4 sections currently, and usually every year there's around 4 sections. And if we make it a semester-long course instead of a year-long course, we would have 8 sections as opposed to 4 sections. With the 8 sections, our idea is that we would still offer Contemporary Issues, and let's say that we had 4 of those sections, it would open up our schedule to offer 2 new electives. Our goal is to introduce 2 new electives for next year, and then 2 other new electives the following year, and just rotate them each year so that if you're a student going through Milton High School, that will give you 4 electives over the course of your 4 years to be able to take. So the first proposal for next year is, it's a course, and I think that you guys have it in front of you, it's called Comparative Cultures Within the African Diaspora.
I don't. It's in the. Oh, behind this one, I'm sorry, okay, thank you.
So this would be a semester-long course, an unleveled course, and this would be offered to any students in grades 9 through 12. And to sum up what it has here for the course description, it would be a course that would celebrate the African culture around the whole world. There would be some focus on American history, but more focus on world history. Some of the things that we had talked about, and we don't have the course set out a scope and sequence month by month because just proposal, but we had talked about a study of, like, comparative study of Caribbean culture versus American culture, how African culture really influenced music, food, politics, et cetera, et cetera. So that would be one course that we want to offer. The second one would be, it's called the relationship between history and the media. This would be a course that would focus mostly on American history post-World War II, and with the advent of all kinds of new social media and just new ways of getting information, we thought this was a really important class to have for our students to be able to look at how media plays a role in history, but also how to differentiate between, liberal slants, conservative slants, what's, considered a viable news source, et cetera. So those would be the two proposals. Both, like I said, would be semester long. It would not be any additional cost to the budget. It would just be more sort of a rearrangement of options for our students.
Can we ask questions at this time?
You can.
Or should I wait till the end?
Go right ahead, Dr.
All right,
Craig.
so I assume that you have teachers currently who can teach both of these courses and that they've proposed these courses?
Yes. So we've worked with, it was interesting, we went through the whole department and we actually threw out some ideas. We brainstormed courses that we thought would be interesting for our students. And we sort of, it was almost like that we had a series of voting, and we narrowed it down to these two courses. And we do have teachers that are interested in teaching it and also that would be qualified to teach it.
And you anticipate more of these proposed electives coming along?
Yes, yes. So some of the other topics that we had talked about was maybe a course in Native American history that would be right from the beginning of our American culture right through today. A study of women's history through the 60s. So we had talked about a number of different courses, and to make the contemporary issues go from a full year to a half year really gives us those options to do that.
I'd just like to say, I think this is a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
Sign me up.
Yeah, I want to take them.
Thank you, thank you.
yeah, I think it's a terrific idea. Given my own research areas, I mean, this really hits where I live, but it's not just for that reason that I think it's a terrific idea. I think it's great preparation for college, and really giving the kids a chance to experience lots of different things rather than being married to one class for the entire year.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ms. Varela?
So can I ask, so would they, I know you said it's an elective that anyone from 9 through 12 can take on
Yes.
these? And that's what contemporary issues is now, so, or is contemporary issues more a senior one?
It's a senior course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's an honors course, and we want to keep that tradition. The seniors really enjoy the fact that that's a senior
Right.
course, and it allows us to talk about some topics that might be a little bit more mature for seniors. And we have segments of the course, a couple of units within the course that are tied in with what a senior might face in their first year in college, et cetera. So that remained the same. These courses would be open to 9 through 12.
So like a ninth grader or say a sophomore could take the relationship between history and the media in the fall semester and then take like a computer class in the next one. So it's
Yes.
not like it has to be two adjoining
No.
humanities electives?
Yes.
Okay. And for those that would want to take contemporary issues, same thing, they could take contemporary issues as a senior, but it would only be half a year, and then they'd choose
Yes.
maybe another humanities elective, but they
Right.
could choose something else.
Right. And we do have a couple of other semester-long courses, debate, law and government,
Okay,
et cetera.
interesting, okay, thank you.
Ms. Bagley Jones?
Question about the class size, which is appreciated that you point that out. So you think this would help? The history classes have some of the highest class sizes, is that what I see?
The class sizes are high, so I think the numbers here were, we had 112 in 4 sections, so the thought would be that if we have 8 sections, then, you'd automatically have some smaller class sizes. And let's say that currently, if you have the 8 sections, we might only have 6 sections of electives. That allows us to have one more US 1 course, so one more.
Got it. So it could be across
Across
the
the
board for those classes, a
Yes.
decrease in class size. Great.
Dr. Donahue?
So I'm going to echo my colleagues' comments. I think these are great electives,
good,
and I
thank
wish that I could audit them. Yeah, from a nuts and bolts perspective, less for me, because I think I know the answer to this question, but in case people are listening. So just to be clear, the contemporary issues is going from a 5-credit year-long course to a 2.5-credit half-year course?
Yes.
Correct, okay. And is your plan to, again, not that it matters to me, but just sort of for publicity's sake, is your plan to offer sections of that both in the fall and / winter and then in the spring? Or is that going to be a first half of the year versus second half of the year? What's your general?
So, in an ideal world, we'd have contemporary issues for a fall course, because in the spring semester, the senior year is just shortened. But it may work out with enrollment and numbers, et cetera, that we'd have maybe 3 in the fall and 1 in the spring. Ideally, we'd try to put those in the fall.
Perfect. And then just, I believe, to reiterate for anyone who may be watching, this is all with your current FTE staffing levels. This isn't
Absolutely,
adding any positions,
yes.
right?
No
Excellent.
additional cost.
These look like wonderful electives.
Thank you,
Thank
thank you.
So we're going to move on to the science department page now, and I'll start right under the humanities on the same page with a physical science course at the college prep level. So the proposal for this course would also, similar to the humanities, not cause any change in staffing or budget as of now. It would actually replace one of our current college prep chemistry classes. But the accessibility of the physical science class would reach out to a smaller cohort, somewhere between 15 and 20 students, who would need an extra year to gain more rigor in their mathematics skills before moving on to a full college prep chemistry course or a full college prep physics course. So with this, they would explore chemistry and physics concepts with less math to look at the overarching ideas. We already have started looking at different texts that are available, and also with advancement funding, all the vernier program that we currently use across all science classes, they've incorporated more engineering at the conceptual level for physics and chemistry, and that would be something really great for these students to do hands-on activities. We would also allow the students more of project-based learning in this course to really explore those concepts and get the basic math, especially at the algebra level, that the students would be working on most likely at the course 2 stage in their mathematics progression, again, to help prepare them typically either their junior or senior year, if they really find an interest in chemistry, to either progress and go into that or into physics by the time they're a junior or senior at the high school level. The second page is going to be a little bit different because this will be contingent upon 2 things. First, enrollment, and second, approval of the override to get the high school an engineering teacher, which would be split between the math and science departments. So one push that we've had, especially with our advancement funding, is the push of STEM across the district, and especially at the high school level, to keep the students moving in with that innovative pathway into the STEM courses as they go K through 12. So right now, this past year, we introduced and are running a semester course for an Engineering 1 course, and we would like to begin implementing next year to keep those students, specifically our current sophomores and juniors who are invested and engaged in engineering, the opportunity to progress to Engineering 2. And also, after doing some research, going out to other schools, seeing what their STEM programs look like, astronomy is typically a popular offering, and that is something that students have expressed interest of, and teachers have expressed interest of teaching as well. So our teachers have been looking into professional development opportunities for running a potential astronomy course. Currently, one of our physics teachers who runs an after-school engineering program is our engineering teacher, and we run, it's a semester course, 1 section in the fall, one section in the spring, and we would hope for next year to do the same thing for Engineering 1, and then add on, again, potential of the engineering teaching position, Engineering 2 in the fall, and another semester of it in the spring, just so it's able to accommodate more student schedules as they go through the year.
Dr. Craig?
No, I'm sitting down, I'm hidden. Yes. let's see, just to clarify with the physical science, college prep course, you're envisioning this for sophomores? Is that what?
Yes, there may be, depending on a student's course sequence, if they enter the high school taking biology at the college prep or honors level, or an introductory to biology course, if they need, extra strength again behind those math and science skills entering as a freshman into the high school. It will primarily be composed of sophomores, but there could be a junior or two in the course as well, simply dependent upon sequencing.
And this would count as their sophomore science class?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
I think if we have an override that passes, I think having an engineering 2 class is a terrific idea. I really do. I mean, I teach at a school that's STEM-oriented and that produces a lot of engineers, and I can tell you that the students who attend, plug for Mass Maritime Academy, that the students who attend the school would be thrilled if they could have had that opportunity in high school to better prepare them for what they're going to face in college. And I know even at larger universities that aren't necessarily engineering oriented, that's still the case. And just to clarify, you said for astronomy you already have someone on staff who could teach that. Is that true?
Correct, but the
Okay.
piece on enrollment, it would again be another physics teacher, and if, because right now we're actually running between college prep all the way up to AP2, we're currently running 12 sections of physics this year. That's our highest enrollment in quite a few years.
Okay.
We're a department of 9, and then I myself, as the department head, teach 2 classes on top of that, so almost 9.5 for staff at the high school.
What is the average class size, like, in those sections of physics?
Most of them are about 24.
For
20
safety reasons, they're
physics.
capped at 24.
For
All
lab
of the
reasons?
science
Yeah.
classes, yes,
Okay.
all the labs. Yep.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. So, I think these classes would be great. I think, no offense, I would not want to take the engineering course, but the astronomy course sounds great. But a lot of kids who have graduated from Milton High go into engineering, and they would love this, and it would be a great thing to add to our science offerings. I mean, again, the concern is staffing, so I'm glad you brought that up. And the courses look good, the staffing is a whole other
Yep.
kettle of fish.
Thank you.
But they look good.
Can I just ask one more?
Dr.
Oh, sorry, do you have a question? Go ahead, you go first, Dr. Donovan.
So just to follow up the staffing piece for astronomy, so just to be clear, so we're putting this elective in the catalog, and you're going to staff it if physics enrollment permits you to
Correct.
pull, okay.
Is that right?
Good luck.
So, and in terms of the physical science college prep, so would that be a class that students would sort of be, I don't want to say encouraged, but counseled, you know what I'm saying? Like you would talk to them after freshman year and say, this might be a good stepping stone for you if you're interested in pursuing more science, but might need a little bit more support in certain areas?
Yes.
Okay.
Teacher recommendation, and actually those are coming up. In the next
Yes.
week, all the teachers will be conversing with the students
Right.
for all of their courses. And will also guide them. The teacher will make a recommendation and also guide the student of things to think and consider of when they're kind of putting their final proposals into the guidance department.
Well, that's great. That would be wonderful if that class could come. That'd be great for just that extra support for kids that might be hesitant to pursue that extra, the science at the higher level. And just aside that, you can include English and history and astronomy. Do lots of writing and poetry about, it's a great crossover course if you think about it. Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah,
These are
wonderful. Excellent.
5 home runs, and it is clear, Mr. Jett and all of you, that you're thinking about what our students need for the 21st century. All of these courses are forward-looking and I think would be incredibly helpful. So let's hope the override passes. I think the engineering course is very exciting and very timely. But all 5 of these, I think, are absolute home runs. Ms. Bagley-Jones, the last word.
I'm sorry, can you explain what's now in the fine and applied arts departments? Music, art, what else is in it?
Take a breath.
Culinary? It's Dawn site, so you have
All the
the
music.
fashion design, you have culinary, then you have child studies, then you have art, and then you have all of the music classes, band, chorus, music, strings.
And order
So
and shop, right?
then-
And
yeah.
shop
But
or
we
auto.
kind of balance that out, we share that one, because
Okay.
it's, and that is
Okay.
also woods and automotives, but,
Okay.
we kind of took that off of Don Sykes' plate, that's a little too much and too many.
Okay, that's, I wasn't sure what was in there now, so I
Yeah.
just wanted to know, okay, thank you, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Jett, and all of you. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jett.
I can sign up, so we'll still have an Eberhard. I can sign up for those classes.
Did we, the
Do
motion
we?
that we approved? We have to approve it.
changes to the course of studies.
So moved.
Moved by Bagley Jones,
Second.
seconded by Craighead. Any discussion?
Yes, I just want to clarify that in voting for these classes, it's voting to put them into the catalog, not necessarily to put them through next year or whatever it might be, because we don't know about what our budget is going to be.
So
Right.
so for the 4 that don't require an additional staff person, it would be to put them in the course of study. For the 5th, it's contingent upon the override.
Right.
pass.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. I'm not sure, Maura, did you get that motion? Oh, no, that's okay. It was to accept the recommendations.
And the clarification, Maura, is that for the 4 courses, comparative cultures, relation between history and media, physical science, and astronomy, it is inserting those in the course catalog. It is also inserting the engineering course, but that's contingent on passage of the override, since that requires an additional FTE. Only in the engineering. So with that modification on the motion, all in favor? It's unanimous, thank you. Assistant Superintendent Shea.
So at this time, we would like to invite our Food Services Director, Ms. Jackie Morgan. She has some very exciting news for us about her food services program, and we're looking forward to hearing all about it.
Where are our samples?
I know.
Friday morning.
If we come in the morning.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for inviting me. I don't know if all of you know, but I've sent invitations. And to let you know that this Friday is a very big day in school food service. We are going to be the first high school in Massachusetts to have a presentation by the CEO of Red's Best, who is it's a local and sustainable fish company down on the Boston Pier. So when I'll go through the thing. So Milton High School I've been working with them since last June. I sit on the farm to school leadership team for the state of Massachusetts, and this year, one of our big issues has been bringing farm to school to the next level, and it's also sea to school. And this is a huge opportunity for our students and for our food service employees to be able to work with them. So they are actually helping support the fishermen as well as to be able to give us local sustainable fish. So I ordered the fish, I was so excited, I ordered the fish on Tuesday instead of Wednesday. But the fish is literally is being, captured now, skinned and delivered to us tomorrow morning, and we'll eat it on Friday. Very exciting. So they're right down in the docks in Boston. You'll see my pictures. I went to the docks, I met the fishermen, I climbed through the fish factory. And this company supports 1,000 local boats.
Wow.
That's great.
So this is my day at sea.
Look at that
This
fish.
is actually the dock. It's right in the fish market, right down by the harbor. And on the right is a gentleman who was holding a halibut. If you've never seen a halibut, that's a halibut.
Wow.
And this is the fish coming off, and the gentleman down on the right is just taking and cleaning and skinning. And more fish. And so this is what's going to be delivered to Milton schools. So tomorrow we'll be receiving 50 pounds of, it's called Catch of the Day. And this is a win-win for our children and a win-win for our fishermen. So it's a locked-in price that will be available to us every time we order it. but it's considered a catch of the day. So I can only talk to my mother when she went out to dinner. Her whole life, she got baked scribe. This is going to be baked scribe. So it might be haddock, it might be pollock, it might be hake, but it will be a white fish delivered just like this for our food service staff. It's not processed. It's a clean, beautiful, fresh product. And we are so lucky to have the CEO of this company coming to speak to all of our students at Milton High School. So when I approached Principal Jett, and I kind of went in gently and soft, and I'd like to introduce to the students, and I think if they understand what local and sustainable is and what it means and how it's a win-win, and he's like, oh, grew up in Martha's Vineyard, he started showing me pictures of the fish on his phone, loves to fish, loves to eat fish. So we're so lucky that all of the students at Milton High are gonna have this opportunity. And I never in my wildest dreams thought all of our students would have this opportunity. So we've done a lot of promotion, we've done a lot of marketing, we've sent press releases out to a lot of the local papers, and on February 17th, we're gonna be serving this local fish at all 3 of our lunches. And you're all invited. One of the things that we're doing also with this is we just applied for a grant with the New England Dairy Council, is that March is Dairy Month. So we are gonna have our fish delivered on a Thursday, served on Friday. And in case we don't use all of the 50 pounds of fish, which might be a gentle, we might work our way towards that, we're going to serve fish chowder every other Friday. So we're aiming for the time of Lent, where not everyone eats fish, but we're trying to use that as part of our theme, where more of our students might be more inclined to try a meatless Friday dish. So we have been working and taste testing with our students our fish chowder recipe. I have an intern, Julie Schaap, from Framingham State University, and this has been her case study. So we went out and she's made fish chowder about 12 times, but we've nailed it. And that's our pro. So we have 2 assemblies tomorrow for the students. The freshmen and sophomores are coming at 8:40 on Friday, and the second assembly is 9:30, where we have some fellow food service directors coming and our nutrition program services director, Rob Leshin from the Department of Elementary Secondary Ed, is coming to attend. So we have some nice people to be able to come and attend, and we have our 3 lunch periods up here. But if any of you are going to attend, I'd love to have you come down to the cafeteria afterwards. We're going to have fresh whole fish on display for the students at all 3 lunches. Our CEO and his team are coming in. They'll be able to see, the old name was dogfish, but it's called now Cape shark. And it's one of those fishes that they're trying to find more uses for, because it's in their nets and the fishermen have to keep it, so schools and institutions. I will say on this day, I did have the opportunity to meet with the Director of Food Service at MIT and the Director of Food Service at Harvard University. And so we're gonna be using their recipe on our Fish Friday. So we're very grateful for them. And our fish chowder, we did collaborate with the Martha's Vineyard Schools, who's been working with local fishermen for years. And working with their recipe, we tweaked it a little. Our kids didn't really like it. They're looking at me like, but where's the milk and cream? So we're very excited. I think I'm hoping that the students will push themselves a little more and try the fish. We'll be doing samples of the fish chowder the day before we menu it on March 2nd. We'll menu it on March 3rd, just to give them a little try. We were gonna have this be our March 1st Ash Wednesday day, but we don't have lunch that day, so we're moving into the next Friday. So we're excited. We think this is I've been working with some of the students. They've been doing taste tests with me. And I'm gonna be trying to work with the wellness students that were at the great event for your wellness center. And I'm working with them to be like my cheerleaders at the door, coming in and out, and the students coming in and out, encouraging them to choose fish that day for lunch. I know they'll eat lunch on Friday. I just really am trying to encourage them to eat the fish. So it'll be about a 4-ounce portion of a nice baked scribe.
Dr. Craig?
I have 2 questions quickly. Depending upon the reception at the high school, I hope you have plans to expand this beyond, because when I first heard about this, I was thinking, oh, good, it's going to be at the elementary school, but maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
Okay. And now I've forgotten what my other question was. But I think that means I have to yield the floor to Ms. Varela.
Ms. Varela.
Well, congratulations
Thank you.
on this. This is very exciting.
I just had a couple of questions. For your student taste testers, how many kids have been tasting it? I mean, are the kids from the high school and the middle school that you've pulled out to taste it when you've been working on the recipes, or just your interns, or?
So
for
the
taste
fish
test?
chowder has been taste tested by the students at lunch. So what we'll do is we'll wait for them to go through the lines, we bring it out on a tray, on a cart, and we go up and down and we ask who wants to taste. And we have sensory analysis we pass out. Do you like it? Is this delicious? Would you buy this for lunch? Do you have any suggestions? You know, the potatoes are too big, we get all the suggestions. So we try to go back with that. The actual fish, Red's Best came in and gave us a few fillets to try. I grabbed some students off the serving line and had them come in. I always grab Mr. Jed, I grab some of our assistant principals, any teachers on duty, some of my food service staff tasted. But I think my understanding is that it's so successful at the MIT and the Harvard dining halls in using that recipe, and I tasted it was delicious. So and then the taste testing for the chowder for the whole high school will be the day before it's menued.
Okay, interesting. All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
So, most people don't know this, but I think you do. Fresh fish is one of my primary protein sources.
I know.
I haven't had any meat or poultry since 1993,
Wow.
and I think this is absolutely fabulous.
Wow.
That students will be able to taste really fresh fish, which is a big deal.
It's a big deal.
There's a lot of fish around, most of it's not fresh, so it's really something that you can develop this relationship where you're getting it the day after it was caught. That's a big deal. So I hope that students embrace this, and that as Dr. Craig has said, we can expand it to the middle school and the elementary schools. But good work. This might be one of your best accomplishments.
Thank you. And I will say, fish has been a hard sell in schools.
It is, it
And
is.
most of the fish I could get is something that you might have started your children with as fish sticks or a fish nugget. And it's
Right.
processed, and it is lovely, and it does have a place. But our struggle with fish, and I'm gonna give Leroy Walker our call out, I have to serve local food, but also my food has to be from the United States of America. We have a buy local provision with the USDA programs. And a few years ago, I could not get any tuna fish in the Milton schools, or legally, I wasn't supposed to have any tuna fish. And so I didn't have any tuna fish, and he really loves fish, like he just told you. And he helped me, and he researched, StarKist had started packaging tuna fish in an island off of America, which is considered American property. I went to the Department of Elementary Secondary Ed, and I said, can I buy this fish? And he said, yes, and now we have tuna fish.
Oh,
So, and I do really want children to try fish, and I want it to be really successful, and for them to understand that fish doesn't smell, fish tastes delicious, and I think if you try it in school, and maybe 3 or 4 friends see you eating fish on Friday the 17th, that maybe the next time they might try it. So I'm hoping as we roll this out, a little bit of that positive peer pressure from other students who, I'm sure I'm gonna be walking around trying to get people to taste fish. I just know myself. I can just see myself doing this on Friday. But I'm really excited, and I hope you can all join us. And Glenn Pelger, Dr. Pelger, I'll give him a huge call out. He told me years ago about a fish CSA at Brookwood Farms, and he was getting his local fish picked up. So we have a lot of people that really love fresh fish, and I'm hoping that our students are next in line.
Ms. Bagley-Jones?
so one of the things, and maybe because Mary's not here, I feel a need to just say all the things that Jackie has done, because she always talks about all the things you've done. But just working with you on the health and wellness and how you've really not just done a great job with the food service, but you've really brought this healthy food stuff a long way in the Milton schools, and it's really to your credit.
Thank you.
And now this is just your next challenge after so many of the other challenges. Whole wheat pizza, I never thought that would fly, and now,
And
you
it's
know.
delicious.
I know, but, so, and all the breakfast bars, special service that you've done. It's really amazing, Jackie, what
Thank
you've
you.
done for food services.
Thank you. And we'll be serving it to all of our teachers. We have a flyer out, we're sending it from K to 12 for all the teachers
Nobody's
to buy
getting
fish
away
on
from
Friday.
Everyone's having fish on the 17th.
Everyone's having fish on the 17th.
And, because my mind just always goes there, there's so many ways you can connect this to learning, to the curriculum.
Which this
To, I mean,
CEO,
seriously, there's just so many ways you can do this.
So
and
that's
make
what the
it-
CEO will be speaking to both
Yeah,
groups about.
Just that piece alone
great.
is really, and to echo what Kristen said, you know, you have such a passion for this, like that. I remember when I first met you, and you weren't yet working for the Milton Public Schools. I was a Glover parent. You were, I don't know if you were a Glover parent at the time, and you were talking about healthy lunches and sending what you send kids to school with and not packing things that are going to go bad during the day. And now, all these years later, you have such a passion for
Yes.
this, and that's really, that's just so admirable. And that you continue to spread all of that belief to the system is, we're very fortunate to have you.
Thank you.
That's for sure.
Will Ms. Gormley be there eating her fish?
Everyone is invited. If you are coming, I do suggest the 9:30 assembly would probably be easier for you. The morning class is changing. And so we're going to try to have the CEO speak for 30 minutes to give time to come in, children to come in and out.
Right.
And our question and answer for most of the students will be at the 3 lunches with all of the fish bodies on ice everywhere on display.
Good for you.
We're excited.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Jackie.
I'm excited to
Thanks
have
very
you
much,
all.
Jackie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
2 in a row. Keep it going.
So next, we have a field trip proposal. This is for final approval from Principal Dr. Karen Spalding. She has 170 middle schoolers who are very excited about a trip to Washington DC. And I believe in your packets, you have the final approval request, along with a very comprehensive itinerary. Additionally, Dr. Spalding provided a close-up statement for ensuring safety and security. This is from a company that specializes in trips to Washington DC only. So they work with schools across the country, and they have been doing this for many years. Dr. Spalding is familiar with this company and finds them very reliable, and is very pleased to be working with them. So they have a safety and security list of guidelines. Additionally, Dr. Spalding has provided for adult supervision. Not only will there be representatives from this close-up company, but there are also staff members who will be attending, and they have a ratio of 1 to 12 students. Dr. Spalding has provided some information about cost. The cost is $775 per student. They did some fundraising to reduce the cost and raised, up to this point, $5,055. This evening, as we speak, Dr. Spalding is holding a mandatory meeting for parents of all students participating in the field trip.
I should be at, but I'm
Most
not.
parents.
Except for one.
And
Tonight.
they're very excited. She's provided permission slips, even a medical form from Georgetown University Hospital. And I think that the proposal is complete. And she's asking for your approval. They're planning this for April vacation.
So move approval for the final approval of the Pierce 8th grade trip to Washington DC.
Second.
Can I just,
Moved by Walker, seconded by Craighead. Any discussion? Ms. Varela?
just for clarification, it's not April vacation week.
I was gonna say, it's not April
It's the
vacation,
7th, 8th, and 9th.
I'm
Right.
sorry, thank
That's
you.
okay, just so,
Okay, I was
just for
thinking of
people
that.
at home,
Okay,
yeah,
thank
just,
you.
yeah, oh, yeah. just-
Thank you, Ms.
I was like,
Burlow.
wow, that's really early.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
okay.
The 7th, 8th, and 9th of April.
So I have just 2 questions. One is, what % of the 8th grade do we think is going?
So, I'm not sure,
Can I-
I'm not
do-
sure about that.
Do you want me to answer that? I know, just from being an 8th grade parent, that I don't have the most up-to-date numbers, but I know that the initial meeting, it is Dr. Spalding's mission to have She wants really almost the entire 8th grade to go, if at all possible, because she's done so much fundraising, because she wants everyone to be able to go. You notice that to the date, they have the they've raised $5,055 for it. So, I know I checked in with her recently, and, I mean, I'm ballparking it, but, it's very high. I know that. I mean, there's only a couple of, kids that are staying back, that, I mean, some of them maybe don't want other families or whatever, but, it's a big to-do. I know that much. Like,
Good.
yeah.
It's a
So-
lot of money.
Good. Okay, well, let's go for 2. Maybe you can answer this question, too. It doesn't look like our Representative Lynch, is doing his usual tour. I see the Capitol Hill visit, but I'd be disappointed if he wasn't offering that opportunity. Do we know whether we've reached out to him or not?
Or Capuano.
Yeah, I'll be honest, the meeting that's in process now, I think we might have gotten that intel, but
Well,
I shouldn't say
I would
at
just,
the moment, yeah.
I would just note that one of them should be offering
Yeah, to be
that
reached out to, yeah.
opportunity. Okay, on the motion.
I just had one other question
Dr.
before we do
Craig,
that, if that's
sorry.
okay. And over $5,000 is a great amount of money to be raised, but given the huge number of students that are going, is that going to be enough really to provide substantial assistance to a number of kids who might need it? I mean, $775 is nearly $1,000 right there, and you got 5, so.
Yeah, that, if I can speak, that, I think it'd be interesting to say, because again, tonight, for some reason, I thought she would, when I read the agenda and knowing that tonight was the meeting, the meeting's from 6, it was at 6:30 to 7:30, so I thought maybe she was gonna come here and present this after, and, I'm sure that this was it's really considered mandatory. Like one parent has to go. And I really think she was gonna give all of that information, and including the head count. And I don't know how long ago you received this, if it was just this week, what the current number is, or, or what they feel their goal is gonna be by, I think all the money is due, next month, for the April date, so, yeah.
So, can you report back on those questions?
I will. I have
Percent participating, is the financial assistance enough, and are one of our representatives offering a tour? Ms. Bagley-Jones, do you have some?
The other question I had, sometimes with the trips with the high school, the fundraising would just go right across the board, so everybody got the same discounted, it would all be 600 for everybody. So is that the expectation around this, or people have to go and apply for the financial assistance?
I think they're told that it will be kept confidential and to go to the principal if they have any needs. I know Dr. Spalding is very sensitive to that.
Yeah.
I believe she would find a way if someone,
I saw with the high school kids that they liked it being right across the board, so that they all were pitching in to fundraise to make it low for everybody versus, so I just wondered how that got handled. But I know she'll handle it very well.
Yes.
That's not the question. I was just wondering how it was being divided up.
I
Thank you.
think it's appropriate to give it to the neediest, to the kids who really couldn't afford to
Yeah.
go
It's just-
otherwise, so.
The balance is, do I have to go in and say I'm needy, or that's what the issue is, so. Middle school kids may be a little easier to get away with
Yeah.
that.
More parent-driven
Yeah.
at that point than kid-driven.
Right.
Yeah.
On the motion, all in favor?
One of my
It's
favorite
unanimous.
trips.
thank you. Moving on to happenings. So we have additional budget presentations by the school committee and administration that will be held at the Glover School tomorrow evening, February 16th at 6:30 in the Glover Library. We have another presentation planned for February 27th at 6:30 p.m. in the Tucker Library. Parents, guardians, and community members are encouraged to attend one of these presentations. where you will find important information about next year's budget. We encourage you to attend and share your feedback. On February 15th, as we speak, the first grade STEM Information Night is being held at the Collycott Cunningham Cafeteria. This is a district-wide event for kindergartners and their parents or guardians. Students and parents will enjoy an overview of the English Innovation Pathway program, the STEM component of that. They will also participate in a hands-on activity where they will apply the steps of the engineering design process. So we are certain that that will be a very successful event tonight. February 16th, tomorrow night, will be the Collycott Science Fair, and that will be held at 6:30 p.m. in the Collycott Cunningham Cafeteria. And on Friday of this week, on February 17th, the Milton High School freshman class is planning a family movie night, and they are inviting Milton families to see Finding Dory. And that begins at 6:30 p.m. and will be held in the high school auditorium. Next, there is no school next week. It is February recess from February 20th to the 24th. On February 28th, we have the Cunningham Science Fair, which will begin at 6:30 p.m. On that same night will be the Tucker School Math Fair at 6:30 p.m. And then on March 1st, we have a very big event. It is the first grade information night for parents. It will be held in the Milton High School auditorium. We invite parents and guardians of current kindergartners who will be entering first grade in the fall to see a presentation about our English Innovation Pathway program and our French Immersion program. There will be important information that will assist parents in making decisions about programs for their children for the next school year. And then finally on... oh.
I think it's March 2nd. March 1st is a Wednesday. March 2nd is a Thursday.
It is on a
And then
Thursday.
it's a
Also-
Thursday. March
That's
1st,
it.
we are meeting here for
Also a
school.
school
Thank you.
Right.
But
Thank
it
you,
is
Doctor.
March,
It
it is March
actually is.
2nd.
It is
that
Thursday, March
First
2nd.
grade
Thank you.
information night.
Thank you. And then finally, also on March 2nd, we have the Pierce Middle School Science Fair, and that begins at 6:30 p.m. That is it for
The
happenings.
happenings. So, update on the fiscal 18 budget. It's actually been a pretty productive 7 days, I'm pleased to report. I mentioned to all of you that late last week I talked with Katie Conlon, Chair of the Board of Selectmen. The focus of that discussion was how we could start to collaborate more effectively on identifying a recommendation for an override figure. We agreed that Town Administrator Mike Dennehy would engage Dr. Pavlicek, Amy Dexter, Town Accountant, and Mr. Dennehy himself in that discussion, with the idea that they could start to look at the question of what the right figure might be for an override. On Monday, I talked with Selectman David Burns twice. The focus of that discussion as well was how could we cooperate more effectively on the budget process, both the contingent and non-contingent discussions. And after some discussion, we agreed that, again, Town Administrator Dennehy might use that same group to discuss particularly the non-contingent budget. As you know, there was a cut recommended for the schools that the school committee was not able to support, and the question was how could we start to bring that figure down somewhat. And Selectman Burns was open to, again, asking the small group to take a look at that and see if they could come up with a different recommendation. That moved quickly. Yesterday, Town Administrator Dennehy pulled together the small group, Dr. Pavlicek and Ms. Dexter, for a meeting, and then a subsequent meeting with department heads that our superintendent attended, along with DPW Director Lynch, Fire Chief Grant, and a couple of other department heads, Will Adamsek from the library. And the outcome of that discussion was that the recommendation was that the school's number be reduced from 1.25 million to 1.1 million. So I think that we're getting the cooperation that we had all hoped for. As I said to both Ms. Conlon and Mr. Burns, it was certainly our intention all along to be able to say that the school committee, the town administrator, and the selectmen were all in support of a recommendation. So I think we're moving closer to that recommendation, and I'm hopeful that we will be able to go to the warrant committee next week when we meet with them and say that that is in fact the case. So what we wanted to do was to talk about the presentation. I think that two recommendations. One, my recommendation is, given that progress, that we eliminate the call to action slide, since the purpose of that, I think, has been met, and I'm comfortable that everyone is on the same page and looking to cooperate. Another suggestion we had was that we do the budget presentation first and the Proposition 2.5 discussion second. I think that certainly makes sense to me. So those are the two things that I would recommend, and anyone else feel free to chime in with other thoughts. Dr. Donahue.
So, excellent work, working collaboratively with our colleagues on the Board of Selectmen. I think you're right, we all want a recommendation that, that puts us all on the same page, and this iterative process has been helpful getting us to that end. My only suggestion would be at the end, I agree that our action steps here seem to have been met, is to remind our parents that we will need engagement on their part to help sort of move this through on a grassroots level, and that's not really our role, that we'll need, help on their end too.
Right, and my thought on that was that we would continue to draw on the expertise of Ms. Varela and Ms. Bagley-Jones. I think we can verbally.
Yes, yeah.
I think we can verbally talk about how a campaign needs to be organized and what that consists of. And I would see that as part of the closing discussion.
Good.
And I
Ms.
think
Eberhardt.
at some point, having parents or, citizens have the opportunity to sort of just give us some more feedback on, after we do the presentation, and just remind people that it is a fluid process right now, that these are the cuts we've identified, there may be more cuts to identify. While we've talked about these other items being part of a contingent budget, those are going to also need to be looked at now as well.
Right.
So it's just a really fluid process, but the main message is that we have a shortfall, we've been asked to make certain reductions, and we really need to get people educated and then move forward after that on an override conversation, so.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
preparation that I would ask each of you to do for our next meeting, which will be March 1st, is to look at the override request and
Yes.
start to prioritize. We're gonna have to prioritize that list in a vote on March 1st. Ms. Varela?
Again, I'm glad to hear about the progress that's been made in a week. Very grateful to all involved who have been advocating that this come together and everyone get on the same page, which is great. One of the things that I've been thinking about from the first presentations, is the length and the amount of information that, we're giving, and because, to echo what Ms. Eberhardt said, that it's fluid, that something that I just would like to put out there to propose, and maybe it would be something that is spoken about at Finance Subcommittee, and then maybe, agreed upon it at regular school committee, that once the numbers are, I guess I should call it, fairly locked after the all-day warrant committee, when what's going to press, what is the ultimate shortfall and what is the ultimate override number, that we have maybe another, when we're more realistically viewing, you know, what would be in our override budget, you know, of some of the asks. Whether we have another kind of one-night-only budget presentation that's more fine-tuned, because it is so fluid now, and to be able to get feedback from the parents, because I feel like with the amount of information that is in the presentation now, we're not really even getting to, you know, here's our contingent asks, and what do you feel about that? Do you feel, you know, is there anything there that you think should be there? Is there anything there that you have questions about, you don't understand why they're there? Like, we don't really seem to be able to speak to that, and the past couple of years, last year when I was on the committee, and years prior to that when I wasn't, the successful aspect of the budget presentation was that, unfortunately, it was always a little bit of shaving, but we were able to ask the feedback from the parent community. You know, we're gonna have to shave something. This is what we have sort of put out there and voted on, and we really want your feedback and, you know, your comment why or that. And I just think before the final vote is made, that would be beneficial. And again, it's too early now because it's still fluid, but I just want to throw that out there as a recommendation.
Sure.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, yeah.
I do too.
Dr.
I mean,
Cragen?
given that we're gonna have to cut more even up to 1.1. I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
might have spoken out
No,
of
no,
turn.
you're right,
Yeah.
you're right. And just, well, one of the comments I received from someone after the presentation was the handouts that we gave them, that one said cut reduction list and one said priorities. The person asked, were the priorities in any special order, which I think we said they weren't, but just to
Right.
remind people, and that obviously these are our priorities for an override,
Right.
not our priorities. Our priorities are to maintain the current excellent level of service that we have, obviously, and then to add if we can, just to that. So that was something someone had pointed out, which I thought, oh, okay, that makes actual sense. You know, you talk about it so much, it makes sense to you, but just a thought to share.
Great. Ms. Bagley-Jones?
So I'm glad to hear the idea of the budget coming first, because that really is our mandate, is the budget, is what we're putting out there. Some of the things that I would like to see changed, if we can, is instead of why do we need an override, what will happen in schools if it does not pass? Those headings are very what you would do for literature on a campaign for an override. And I think, why do we need an override? We're saying, this is what our budget is. Here, folks, this is what will be cut, period. We can't be the ones running the override from this. So I would just want to be really careful about the language that we use when we go through. We have several slides that say what will happen if it does not pass. Well, we'll keep on plugging away and doing what we're supposed to be doing. It will be tough and tight and not good, but we're not the ones saying, you know, you're all looking at me with puzzlement. It feels like this is basically us saying we have no choice but to have an override. And I'd
So-
like to see that tone shifted a little, because it's too early in terms of our relationships with other town departments. It's too early to just automatically, this is what we need to do.
So I think that's a timely comment, and in fact, I talked with Mike Dennehy this morning. One of the things he's going to do is have town council come into the next department heads meeting and instruct department heads about what they can and can't do and can't say. So we can certainly piggyback on that discussion and make sure that we're towing the line.
Right. And I think that everybody at this table has the utmost respect and wants everything to work for the schools and for the town. And I don't want anybody out there to think that we're not trying to work with the town, because that's what, none of us want that. But in the heat of the moment and things get, you know, whatever, I think that message got across to some people, and that's not the message any of us were trying to give in terms of not being around the town, with the town united around this. So I appreciate those changes. And then the other thing was, I think having the priorities in there were a little confusing, because some folks heard it as, okay, you also want to add all these things. Well, no, if we had more money, we would add those things. So I think it's a lot to have in there, unless we can figure out a way to delineate that a little bit clearer, because people walked away thinking we were also asking for all that. here's what will be cut and what we need. And by the way, we also need these other last 3 slides. And I don't think that's what we're trying to say. So the slides, I mean, are at the end. I just had them circled. Anyway,
It's the contingent budget.
yes, right. So maybe 1 slide on the contingent budget only, because otherwise it looks like it's a lot that we're asking for. At least that was what I got. And then the other thing is, and I think I talked to you, Glenn, about this, is clarifying the buckets of the positions, because the feedback was very strong. You're saying you're gonna lose 22, but you're really only losing 13. Well, no, we're losing 22 in this area. We have to add 9 in this area because we have no choice, but these 22 are still gonna be gone, and it's gonna impact our schools in this way. Larger class sizes, less electives, blah, 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 blah. And so I don't know if there's a way to say that, because we are losing 22 FTEs. But we are adding some FTEs because we have to.
Because of legal mandates. Yeah.
Right.
And I don't think people got that. A lot of people may have, but some people did not get that at all.
Okay, well, we can think about that.
Yeah.
Well, how would we think about it?
Well, I think the information has to be in there, because to Ms.
Yes.
Varela's point, at some point, we're gonna ask them about how they might prioritize the override request. So I think we need to give them all this information, so I think what we need to think about is, are we clear on making the point that this is the non-contingent discussion, this is the contingent discussion. The contingent discussion is called contingent because it requires an override.
Right.
So, but I think we can,
And that's like slide Z.
I'm not, but I'm not sure we can do that in one slide, but.
Right.
we
Well,
can-
but also what I was saying is that the different cuts, the 22 cuts versus the 9 that are being added, those things aren't clear.
Yeah.
Didn't
Okay.
come across as clear either.
So,
Okay.
so I agree, and I think, Kristen, that if, like you said, if we start with the budget presentation and don't speak about the override, and we're gonna start with the non-contingent budget, like this is what we've been asked to cut. And then, and then go into, what a contingent budget is. I
Yep.
do think we can clarify again, and I
Yeah.
even say it here, that the reason, even in this PowerPoint presentation, that what people are unclear is to roll, so we're in our 26, 27 school year. But what people need to understand is that there are special education mandates that we don't currently have in the schools based on the needs of our population, our students, and we cannot turn anybody away, as we all say that we are going to have to add new positions that are legally mandated.
Yeah.
So those 9 new positions for special education are going to cut into this regular rollover year. And that's where
Right.
that's what needs clarification.
Yes.
And we can maybe emphasize that a bit more, so that people say, well, why are you adding new positions?
Right.
So other people lose their job. It's unfortunate, but we don't have a legal mandate to offer so many minutes of art.
Right.
It's a legal mandate on this, and that's what needs clarification. So, I think
Yes.
we can do that.
Absolutely.
And adding those 9 for the legal mandate won't reduce class sizes, but
Right.
cutting the 22
Yes.
Yes.
will increase class
That's right.
sizes, et cetera.
Right.
That's right.
So I think making those points clearer is
Yeah.
probably,
Right. And
It
I-
will impact everybody.
Right, and I think a lot of other questions that I came across that we need to clarify is that, will 22 people lose their job?
No, it's 22
Right,
FTEs.
but remember I talked about this too. A lot of people don't understand, FTE is full-time educators, but.
Full-time equivalent.
Equivalents, I'm sorry, full-time equivalent. But that, there are people in our district now that work full-time that would be cut down to a half-time position. There are people in our district that work half-time, and they will lose their job. So that's what we mean when you add all those educational classes, or the time that staff gives, they're going to leave, and that's gonna increase class size. Because what do? We cut and we make the classes bigger.
Yep.
And so that's what we mean by but equivalent-wise, when you look at the class day, and of course, it's it's FTEs, full-time equivalents of positions.
Right, and so the answer back would be, no, 22 people aren't necessarily going to lose their jobs, but this will affect more than 22 instructors. Because
Exactly.
people are being reduced by .2 or .5
Exactly.
or .3 across the board.
Exactly.
And then, you know, as Superintendent Gormley has pointed out very clearly, that means that a lot of these good teachers are going to go elsewhere.
Right.
So, you know, I think those are points to make about what that 22 FTE really means and how
Exactly.
it plays
Clarify
out
that.
a little bit
Mhm.
better. I mean, that's shorthand that we're all really familiar with,
Right.
but maybe
Exactly.
not so much in
Yep.
our audience.
Can I have two more
Sure.
things? So the 22 FTEs though, but Glenn, that is more than 22.
People.
People, yes.
Yeah, it's more than
It affects
22
more than 20
people.
20.
So it's 20, whatever people,
So-
our staff, but it's the equivalent of 22 positions.
Yes.
May I have-
I thought Ms. Bagley Jones had a second.
I did, but you had,
Just for purpose of clarity, because people are so
yes.
we're talking about a lot of positions. We have been tasked, I feel like we're sort of prepped for our next run here. So we've been tasked with creating a budget that reaches a certain number, and there is a shortfall. And to account for that shortfall, we are eliminating positions or portions of positions. Of that portion of the money of that shortfall, we have identified approximately 18.5 FTEs that account for a portion of that shortfall. We keep using numbers interchangeably, so I just want to be clear that of the cuts that we're going to need to make, we have made cuts that account for 18.5 FTEs now. We need to identify additional cuts that bring that number up to 22.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
change.
yeah.
Right,
Oh,
right,
yeah.
right.
Oh,
And I'm only saying this because it gets confusing,
Yes. Right.
but
I was just arguing
of
on the
those
22.
18.5 FTEs that we have identified, currently, that affects approximately a number of educators in the mid-20s.
Right.
So when people, when you
Yes.
hear these numbers, there's
That's right.
a lot
There's
of, a
human
lot of
side.
numbers in a similar ballpark that can get confusing.
That's right.
But your point is made that we again need to identify that the number of educators affected by the cuts are larger than the positions we're cutting because we're taking portions of positions.
Right, exactly.
Back
And
to
then
you, Secretary.
my last question was, on page 20 where we say Director of Social Emotional Learning, and we also have Director of MTSS, mirrored tiered system of support, it's two different administrative positions, but it really shouldn't be. It should be one. But I've said this a couple of times, so I'm not sure why that's still on there as two administrative positions. It's not, it's one, or it should only be one.
It could only be one, but
I have no idea why there's two on there still. I've said it before, it's,
because we aren't sure that we can hire one individual with both of those skill sets. So we have to allow for the contingency that we might have to hire two.
Right. yeah, we can have another conversation, but that's actually just
Offline would be good.
technically, anyway. But, so I just want to go on record, it's not two positions, it's one, and I don't understand why there's still two there, so.
Can I ask a question, Kristen? So in your line of work, which I know this is your line of work.
Yep.
Would most people, to speak to Chairman Walker's point, like, would they have the certification to do both? I guess is my question.
yeah, yeah.
Right,
So,
more than you do.
The mass tiered system of support is recommended by the special ed review, but that's to implement a mass tiered system of support. Social emotional learning person would implement a mass tiered system of support. So they would be implementing what this other person's job title was. Doesn't make any sense, because you can't implement somebody's title as an intervention. So anyway, but DESE
just-
does recognize the MTSS position, so maybe that's the position.
Just to be clear,
Mm-hmm.
when you made that point, and we discussed it with the superintendent, and her recommendation was we continue to show two positions.
And so I'm just saying, for me, I would totally disagree with it still.
I get it.
So, just putting that out there.
You're on the record,
Yes, I am on the
on
record.
television.
Yes, it is clear.
Ms.
Thank you.
Eberhard?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we did discuss that at the finance subcommittee several times. Assistant Superintendent Sheehan mentioned that she had been doing research on districts that they were often a combined position, and I think one of the things that we're trying to figure out is as we move forward and we look at this contingent list, how are we going to prioritize it? What are going to be the needs? And I think that it's important to, that probably a lot of people didn't see all those meetings when all the principals came and they presented to us at length their needs and their observations from their day-to-day work with students, and that's where that list comes from. It's not from, it came from those presentations and the needs that they see on a day-to-day basis. It is, I think we've gotten some feedback from parents about needs that they are thinking about, things that they see as parents in the system and need. So those were the conversations that we need to have moving forward. That list is gonna change a lot, I
Yes.
would imagine.
I think that's exactly right,
Yeah.
and this is a $2 million list.
Yeah.
The likelihood is we'll get
Yep.
half or a quarter of that.
Yeah.
So it's gonna change dramatically,
Right.
and that's what the prioritization discussion will be
Right.
about.
And just, if I can say, but I don't feel, I know it's a big list, but, and again, I think we've learned from the presentation because there's so much info in there.
It's a lot of work.
But, I don't think it's a bad thing to put them all there, because like, to Ms. Eberhard and Mr. Walker's point, like, that's what, like, our administrators and our site councils, which comprise of parents, local community people, principals, you know, we're putting it all out there because, and there's something I take pride in about Milton Public Schools, is that we're putting it out there. That's why I want that additional, like, call it like a one night only, and we'll just push those emails like we did for these things so people will get there. That, you know, we know that these are concerns and needs that have been expressed, but then, you know, in the real world, there's only so much money, and so we want you to be able to give us your feedback, like, from your child's experience. What do you agree with? What would you feel is, you know, a higher priority, and, you know, what do you think's not? Or, you know, that's the good thing about this system, is that, and when I wasn't on the school committee, I saw that the school committee would take that seriously and that feedback seriously, and that's what we'll get to in our next
Right.
steps. Yeah.
And I would just underscore your point there, that we made an important change in the budget process this year, which was to bring the site councils in early enough in the budget process that they could in fact make recommendations. And this list is derived from those recommendations, so it really does reflect what they see as some of their critical needs.
And I think that, member Abby Jones's point will be useful to us, you know, her observations, her experience in the work, doing this work, as we cut the lists, and we
Right.
think about how can we combine, how can we make a more efficient, streamlined override contingent budget. So,
Right.
yeah.
One more.
Anything?
Page 23, the action steps. Are we going to leave this in, or can we
No,
take this
I
out?
said, I said we should take that out.
Oh, you said you were striking it out. You
Yeah.
did say that. Okay. Great.
All right. Thank
Dr.
you for your-
Pavlicek.
To the extent there have been a lot of suggestions here tonight, and the new version goes live in 22 hours at the Glover Site Council, at the Glover CTO tomorrow night. I would appreciate anything that you're put in writing, like tonight, and send it to us, so that the two of us will be working on this tomorrow morning, and have it ready for prime time at 6:30 tomorrow night. So to the extent any of this can be, we've been taking notes, but can be put in writing in your top 3 favorite changes, get to as quickly as possible.
Right, thanks.
So why don't I suggest this? Let's have Maura give us a list of the things that she captured. Let's do a draft, send it out, and just with the understanding that it's gonna require a quick turnaround. So we'll send it out as early tomorrow morning as we can, but gotta have comments by no later than 2 p.m. So if you can look at it, great. If you can't, that's understandable.
Yep, great.
It's fair.
That's fair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for all your work, you and everyone else.
Subcommittee updates. So the idea here is to just say a word about what the charge of your subcommittee is, and more importantly, about upcoming activities through the end of the year. And let's take them in the order that they appear. So, Finance Subcommittee, is responsible for leading the annual budget process and reviewing and approving financial and non-financial items that are submitted for review by the superintendent. Members are Leroy Walker, Margaret Eberhardt, and Elaine Craighead. I think clearly our major task is to see this budget process through to completion, and if we can do that, I think we can take the rest of the year off. Policy Subcommittee?
All right, so,
Can we ask questions?
Oh, you can, yeah?
So do you guys look at class size when you are meeting? We used to look at that on a regular
Occasionally.
basis.
So the reason we stopped circulating those lists is we
Yep.
got an opinion from legal counsel that in certain classes where the numbers are small enough, they could serve as identifiers of certain special education students, and therefore, she recommended we not circulate those.
Okay. Is there a way to get them without the special ed numbers in? It's hard to know in terms of class size when we ask these questions what we're looking at.
So I think.
It's helpful to see it.
I think the short answer is yes. If we have specific questions, we can certainly get answers to those questions. So if you have a question about first grades or second grades or whatever.
No, I would just wanted to see the class sizes on a more regular basis in terms of which classes, the classes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what their grade, what their amounts are. But if you have to exclude special ed classes, is that what you're saying, to show
So-
us that information?
So why don't we check with legal counsel and see what her opinion is on that.
What we did in your budget book, in the enrollment section at the back, we put in an enrollment chart, and what we did was we collapsed in our standard enrollment chart that tells you in the code to our classroom how many children are regular ed, how many special ed. We just collapsed it into a
Right.
single number to hide much of that. We can do that.
But you can give us that information if that's collapsed.
That doesn't identify anyone, but you won't
Right.
see what you'll see how many children, that there are 17 children in that class. You
That's
won't know
okay.
what the special ed, regular ed breakout is of them.
That's okay.
And there's a couple issues with some separate classes,
So that-
substantially separate classes that we can look at. The issue is the current chart doesn't exist that way. Every time we do it, we have to do a fair amount of modification to sort of clean it up a bit before we send it out, so we don't identify children. So it can be done.
Okay.
It just, doing it, for instance, every school committee meeting would
Right.
involve a lot of manual effort.
So, let's check with legal counsel and make sure that she's comfortable with whatever format we commit to, and then let's do it on a quarterly basis.
And the reason I ask about it is that there are parents who are saying, well, my kid has 28 kids in their class, and there's no aid, or, I don't know. So we used to be able to have a better sense of what classes we're getting, what grade levels at each school we're getting high, and that gives us a good sense about, what are some of our needs that are coming down the pike. The other question I had, can I just keep going?
Sure.
We used to take minutes, and then a long time ago, and then we didn't, and I don't take them anymore and give them because, it's a lot of work. Should we think about the finance subcommittee giving minutes? If we can't
Well,
be there,
We have an obligation to take minutes. That's not a.
give them, I meant.
what do you
I
mean,
take
give them?
minutes, but I used to bring them, like I would bring my subcommittee minutes to the school committee so you could see what had happened at the meeting. So if I can't be at finance subcommittee, but I want to know what happened, it would be good to see the minutes.
So I think we can post them. I don't think it's necessary to bring them to school committee meetings, but I think we can post them.
Yeah, just so that we can,
Yeah.
it used to be when you talked about your committee, you would pass out the minutes. And I haven't done that in about 6 years, so.
Yeah.
I'm not, he lives in glass houses and all that, but because finance is so important and I can't always get there a lot, it would be nice to know what the final, situations were.
Okay.
Thanks.
Policy Subcommittee?
all right, so policy subcommittee, you deal with the existent and potential policies for the school district. The members are myself, Sheila Varela, and Margaret Eberhardt, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Why am I the only one with questions? The reason that I had wanted to
committees.
talk
Yeah,
about this
Well, I'm on policy, so I have
Oh,
no, I
right,
have no
half of
questions
you
because
on it.
I'm on it,
is
so.
that people don't know all the work that we do behind the scenes, and they really don't understand that there are different policies, there are different committees that do things, and things like policies, we can't do something if there isn't a policy connected to it. So my question for policy, you think I'd spent years thinking about this. My question about policy is that you guys are doing an incredible job making it through the policy book. I was on policy 2 other times, I don't think we really did this much, but anyway. Are you approaching them in any kind of order of priority, or is it just trying to get through?
Yes,
You're approaching them in priority?
yes.
Okay.
So, so, our primary role is to deal with topics, timely topics. So after we have moved through the timely topics, we systematically move through the policy booklet. So in the last several years, subsections A and B have been reviewed fairly comprehensively. So we're now working our way through section C with scheduled detours for policies of interest that may happen to be farther along in the book that people think would be worth attention sooner rather than later.
Okay. The subcommittee, the substance abuse one was reviewed by the Health and Wellness, and I did get some feedback, but I haven't given it to you formally from some of the other members.
Yeah, I know that you'll speak about health and wellness next, and I'm on it, and then I'm on policy too, but that would be, this is an area where I think like health and wellness, because it's broad, but it would be great, either if you can come to the next policy committee with those recommendations, or if we want to talk, because I'm on it, and I could speak to it, I'd be happy to do it, but that's on our next agenda, so that's one of the pressing topics that we're going to address. See, those are, so it's kind of like, when those things come up and we need to deal with them, they're on the agenda, and then we go through the book too,
And so then if there were policies that came up that should go through other subcommittees, that would be helpful too.
I think to date, we've sent at least one other to you this past year. I think the alcohol, tobacco, and
Yes. And I know we talked at Health and Wellness about, it's probably time to relook at the bullying one at some point, maybe not this year, but it's coming, it's been a while now. Do you remember that, Janet?
I just wanted to add that every 2 years, the Department of Education requires us to submit a revised and updated policy. So we have, on the bullying.
Yeah.
So it's been kept up to date in that our
DESE.
committee, our committee works with someone at DESE to make revisions, and then we send it to, Paige Tobin to review it.
And then does it go back to policy to be?
It hasn't. I think because I think that the understanding is that it's just submitted every 2 years to, certainly we can do that, but I don't think that there was an understanding that there was a requirement that it go before school committee, just that we submit it every year, every 2 years, to DESE.
Yeah.
For any revisions.
Well, the simple answer is if there are changes to the policy, they have to be approved by the school committee.
Yeah,
If there are no changes, then they
So it's
don't.
really not, it's not the policy, it's the bullying prevention and intervention plan.
The plan goes to DESE, and that's
Yes.
why I was.
Right, not the policy.
Yeah. But then that would drive the policy, so that's why I'm saying it's probably time for the health and wellness and policy, we could have a joint meeting and talk about the bullying one, and crank it all out at once. I had another question. Oh, did you guys ever look at, the Mass Association of School Committees has that online policy thing? I don't know if you've seen that.
so the Mass Association of School Committees, it regularly sends us information identifying policies that we should revisit.
Yeah.
And that's part of our, if you'll call it, current events agenda topics.
Yeah.
They also are a wealth of information for template policies, and
Right.
we've utilized them in the past.
Right. I saw many other communities actually just had their policies up under their website. I thought it might make it a little easier. I don't know. A little
Easier for,
for you guys,
You mean?
because they're online.
You mean that big white book is
They're
all online?
Well, not that white book, but like, it's a pull down, and like, it'll say Arlington, and all Arlington's policies are right there. And this, so anybody can also look at the policies a little easier and not have to go through that big binder.
Wow.
Anyway, just thought I'd put it out there for you.
you know, if that comes up, I'm sure we'll reach out for help.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Health and wellness.
Health and wellness. So, health and wellness has been around a long time. Lori Stillman started to help me with this. It was around the school building health, that asthma, worries about kids breathing. That's where I think it started from.
2001.
2001.
Yeah.
And one of the first parent forums I went to was when Lori did a forum for parents about substance abuse after the first youth risk behavior survey was done many, many years ago. And then I got on school committee, and so, because of the work I do, that's why I was so interested in it. So on our committee, we have a very big committee. We run out of seats around the table. We meet on Friday mornings at 8 once a month, but we have, and Sheila, help me if I forget anybody's name, but the important people, we have Edwin DePreve, the
Sheila Varela. No.
Edwin is a senior at Milton High School, and this is his second year. Joanna Needham, it's also her second year, and she's a high school senior. Caroline Kinsella, who's the town Board of Health, she's been on as a community member for quite a while. Vicki McCarthy, who was the youth liaison worker in Milton for the police department, she's on it, has been for a while. Noel.
She always calls him Noel.
I got this thing, I can't say his name, the new PE director, he's on it.
Yeah.
And he has been a great help. I can't say his name, but he's been a great help. Jackie Morgan, our lovely food service, she does bring her policy on wellness. Once a year, I think we approve it and we give it to you. So another policy that overlaps, that we have to have her on our wellness committee. And it's not just because she brings us food in the morning. Mr. Jett, Margaret Gibbons, Holly Concanon, Rich Garino, one of our adjustment counselors, Scott Devlin, who's our high school adjustment counselor, Marty McKenna, the family liaison person, Sheila Varela, you know who that is?
Yep.
Me, and then Mary and Janet. So we
And
have
is Dr. Spalding's not on it?
oh, and Dr. Spalding,
Yeah,
how
yeah,
could I
she's there
forget
all the
Dr.
time, too.
Spalding?
So it's pretty big.
We have
Yeah.
no seats left at the
Yeah.
table.
Uh-huh.
And so the focus really has been on mental health, social emotional mental health, and substance abuse. And we've tried to strike a balance between, we're not stepping on school staff, but we want to get some things done. We've co-sponsored a number of events, Chris Herron a couple times, a couple parent forums. We've worked with the Milton Substance Abuse Coalition, which Vicki and Caroline are both a part of now. BID Milton used to send somebody to be on the committee, but then that person left their job, so haven't placed that person yet. And the DA's office works with us on different things. So it's really trying to keep current on the health and wellness issues that are impacting our students. We're trying to make it elementary through high school instead of a focus just on high school. So Holly Concanon has joined, Karen Spalding joined last year. The Risk Youth Behavior Survey was the biggest thing, I think, to get that done and to get that done on a regular basis. And we learned a lot of data from that you all know, but that has really helped, especially around health education, figuring out how to update. He's figuring out what he's looking at all the health education, what he's updating, and now that we have that data to look at. For a long time, we had, what was Todd's name? Todd from Glover, the playground person. Anyway, Todd, very nice man, parent from Glover, who came in and did a lot of work with us for teachers and kids around healthy recess exercise type things. That was pretty cool. And then a lot on social norms and trying to get messages out to kids about things like that. What did I forget?
Can I question, before my time, is stuff like the buddy bench come out of that and all that stuff?
Nope, that's Holly Concanon.
All her, okay,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Jan, did I forget anything?
I don't think so. I think it was a pretty
Yeah.
comprehensive
You have a
report.
question?
Oh,
I have a question for you.
you got a wave like this.
I know. I see that you meet on Fridays at 8 AM one time a month. I didn't know that. And I think everybody knows when finance meets, because we meet every single week and it's
Yep.
the same time or whatever. But I think it'd be great, I know that policy usually meets before school committee meeting, but I know it's not every single time that we meet. I don't know how we can do this, but to get better about posting those times, because even though there's not a
Yep.
seat left at the table, there are times when I would like to come. And I definitely want to come to the next transportation meeting, because I have things to contribute, I think, to that discussion. And now that I know there's food at your meeting, I definitely want to attend. Anyway, but I would hope that
Yep.
we could all get better about
Yep.
sharing, like, this is coming up.
Absolutely.
Kind of thing for all of us, if we can make it, to be able to go.
We could perhaps ask Charlene to give us a weekly calendar of all the meetings.
Or can I?
Ms.
Just-
Varela?
What I think is, would be easy, because Charlene prepares the agenda for each, is that she just sends the agenda out to the school committee, and so that you know when the time is and what's on the agenda.
Right,
And then if it fits accommodates your schedule, you can come.
right.
I think that's the
Right.
easiest
I
thing.
think that's great.
And it would be good to know when they are. I
Yeah.
totally
Right.
agree.
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
really helpful.
Well, can I ask that? Yeah, we could ask, our calendar does not have the subcommittee meetings on it, just the school committee meetings.
Not as far as I've seen.
Because most of us set those meetings at the beginning of the year, and they're posted. I mean, they do change like school committee can, but I don't know if that would help us too. I mean,
So that would mean that she will need to post all of these as full school committee meetings. And it will also mean that if there are any votes taken, the votes are taken by the members of the subcommittee, not by other school committee members present.
Correct.
Yeah, so when she posts the health and wellness, they're not posted as a full school committee meeting, but they're posted, but it easily can be, and just, yeah.
So that's all of the subcommittees they posted.
All the subcommittees get posted, but they could be, if they're posted as full school committee, then you could come and go as you wanted to.
yeah, but can I ask clarification? They're posted at town hall.
Mhm.
They're not, what I'm saying is on our,
Oh,
our
yeah, yeah,
regular
yeah.
website calendar. Like, you
Right.
could go on the Milton website calendar, we know when the school, like, the average parent can know when the school committee is. They could know when the transportation subcommittee is, and the health and wellness, and, Friday morning, I don't know, I mean, or we can just do, either way, it's an easy fix, I think, for when people to know when they are, yeah.
I would love to know when they all are.
Yeah.
So the only other caution on that is that we need to make sure that we are upholding our obligation for transparency. So if we have repeated meetings where effectively they're full school committee meetings, that's a problem. So if you have 3 meetings in a row of this subcommittee where all the school committee members are there, that's a school committee meeting. So we just need to, if there are particular things you're interested in, please feel free to go. We've always operated that way, but let's just be conscious that we're not effectively having school committee meetings that aren't available to our viewing public.
So if it's posted as a full school committee meeting, people can go and not vote. But what you're saying is if that happens on a regular basis, then that really turns into a de
Right, then
facto school committee meeting.
right, we're not meeting our obligation
Got it.
for transparency.
Got it,
Because people depend on being able to see this, to see us
right,
deliberating.
right. Well, maybe that would be helpful then for sharing information if we did try to get back in the habit of giving minutes on our meetings. Look at the joy on my face at that idea.
Well, can I, just to roll into that?
It helps.
I give them.
You do?
Should
I
have-
used to. But, I mean, I think if we all,
Well,
I think that'd be
so I just want to be clear. We should be taking minutes and posting minutes. They should be available on our website. I don't think we want to take up time at school committee meetings distributing minutes.
No, but can I ask a question? I take them and then email them to the superintendent, Charlene, and all of you. And
Right.
I assume
That-
Charlene will
that's, I
post
think,
it.
that works fine.
That's, yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. So,
So
right?
then could we do that for all of the subcommittee meetings? Or let me
Yeah.
just put it this way, finance would be really helpful to hear about on a more regular basis than what we talk about here. I can't get to them all the time. I'd love to hear more about, I'd love to hear more about strategic plan, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I know you're all dying to hear more about health and wellness, so, be happy to.
Okay, transportation.
Okay, so, Shayla Varela, I'm chair, and I'm solo.
Same as MFE, that's
Huh?
sort of my problem.
Yeah, so Margaret's
Yeah.
not on it, so that's one thing.
Yeah.
Ms. Eberhard is not on it.
It's
It's
the
just me.
same night as the MFE meeting?
Yeah,
And so
and it's, so she can't do it. It's just
Can't do
the
both.
way.
it'd be lovely if I could be
The
in
ball
two
bounces.
places at once.
If anybody else would like to join, then, yeah, all right,
I
girl.
so want to be on this.
Chairman Walker, can we officially have her be on it?
So, move to strike Margaret Eberhard
Strike,
from
yes.
the
Strike.
Transportation and Traffic Safety Subcommittee and add Dr. Elaine Craig.
Uh-oh.
Yay.
Second.
Okay.
Moved by, we're not even, what happened to our secretary?
Oh, her daughter just became very sick, so she had to go
Oh.
home and she's gonna watch the rest
All
on
right, so
cable
moved
and
by
take the
Walker,
notes.
Seconded by
She
Deb.
texted
seconded
Glenn
by
that she had to scram.
Donahue. Okay, on the motion, all in favor? It's unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just remember to contact me about the project, though.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm gonna talk about that
Okay,
anyway.
all right.
So I'm gonna read the little info here. So the charge of the Transportation and Traffic Safety Subcommittee is to coordinate, the development of solutions to identify transportation and traffic safety issues and these are our partnering, departments, the Milton Police Department, Department of Public Works, the Milton Traffic Commission, Town Administrator, and we also work and partner with Massachusetts Department of Transportation. They have a liaison that sits at our meetings that is very helpful. And the subcommittee is comprised of one or more school committee members, which now Dr. Craig will be joining me. The Milton Public School Assistant Superintendent of Business, Dr. Pavlicek sits in. Jake Smith, who's our Milton Public Schools Director of Transportation, and we have a parent from each of the elementaries and middle school. So it's one of the committees where it's parent reps are on it. So, we meet once a month, and we deal with all of the issues that are spoken to, in this definition. So we go over busing issues, if they are from the, to and from the schools. We work with MassDOT on encouraging a walk to school program, which you're all aware of. We kick it off in the fall, past couple of years with Wally, the Green Monster, and identify every Wednesday to be walk to school day. We ask the PTOs, besides their representative on this committee, to have a walk to school representative, and that's their job in the PTO community, to facilitate, meeting points, walk to school meeting points, and we've kind of expanded it that it's walk/bike to school. So, and that point too, I also want to say that Noel has come into play and been effective to come to some of the meetings and to also work with his staff, his health staff, the gym teachers, who participate and sign up with Jana Linhart, that's our MassDOT representative, in getting prizes and encouraging and promoting the fitness aspect of walking and biking to school on those Wednesdays. I admit it's a little slow at this time of year on those walk to school Wednesdays, so we are doing another sort of kickoff in March to, hopefully knock wood that the weather will get better, that more people will go to it. We have implemented our second year of safety patrol, so we have fifth graders at each of the 4 elementaries that fill out an application and write an essay, and Mr. Smith chooses, along with the principals, who the safety patrol representatives will be. And again, I think that we're gonna bring them in April to introduce what they've been doing. Again, it's a great program through MassDOT and AAA that they come in and do the training. It's all free. But again, it's encouraging safety at pickup, drop-off to school. And we have a bike training program that we do at the middle school. Again, our MassDOT liaison works with Mr. Bonner, who's our health teacher, and Dean Fitzgerald. And we're also this year partnering with the Milton Bicycle Advisory Committee, who's come in and now has been sitting in on our meetings. Because they want to see how we can better work together, especially on encouraging of course, they're biking to school, but walk to school, and the new bike routes and things like that, or even more of theirs would be on the sidewalks. But we're working with the director of the Milton Bicycle Advisory Committee on that. And one of the exciting things to coordinate the bikes and the routes, as you know, in our Walk to School program, there's designated sites, meeting sites, that Glover has, that Collicott has, that Tucker has, that Cunningham has. And we've come up with the idea that we're gonna try to work on to execute next year. We're just starting it now. But I would love to have, like, the walk to school sites, like the free libraries. Because I just love those libraries. They're so beautiful, and everyone is engaged by them. So the Milton Bicycle Advisory Committee has a grant, and they want to help us, maybe in the town, have it of those different sites, that it would be a beautifully, I want it to look creative and I mean, it reaches out to the town. We'd have to bring it to the town, the selectmen, but they want to give us the grant, give us grant money, and we thought about, well, who would build them and how could we do them? And so someone said, what about the Scout program? And I said, well, we actually have someone on the school committee that might have a lot of intel to give us about that. So I have reached out to Mrs. Eberhardt about if it could be a possible Eagle Scout project that they could create next year, kind of like the garden project, like those sites. And so we're taking first steps of definitely defining the sites, which we've done with MassDOT, and we've received them confirmation from the principals of the school. And once we gather all that, at our next meeting, we'll meet with the advisory committee and see if we could get the approval, maybe bring it to the Board of Selectmen. But it's a project that we have in the works that I think is really exciting, that it could just be there year-round, and everyone knows that this is our walk to bike to school meeting points. And it's already done, and parents don't have to make little signs and whatever. I mean, it has to be approved and tastefully done, but I think it could be a nice. So it's an idea that we're working on that we're excited about. And I think that's kind of everything now, the safety patrol stuff and the training and the walk to school sites. And so far we did have some busing issues that kind of come and go. But Dr. Pavlicek I can't thank him enough for his advocacy and, getting back to parents on that. So it's just an ongoing thing that, how to better improve, the walking, the biking, if there's, any, what I call flow issues on, which we're still working on with Glover this year, and we'll continue to try to improve this spring and next year. But it's a busy committee, and it's constantly evolving and changing, so that's where we're at. Yeah.
Ms. Bagley-Jones?
So I have to say that the traffic committee, subcommittee started when there was a lot of issues around East Milton parents in terms of the fees for the bus and the crosswalks and all of that, and I don't want to say I was reluctantly involved in it, but I wasn't, anyway, I won't say that. But, and you really have taken it over and made it shine. It's unbelievable the amount of work that you've done. Okay. I do want to say that the MassDOT person was on my health and wellness, and I gave her to you. But I mean, really, when you think about the angry parents and the upset parents about the routes, and that the school committee and the school department really responded to that in this very proactive way, and now you have taken off with that. That's pretty impressive.
Well, I also think that it kind of how some of the subcommittees not piggyback, but have to work together. I definitely think that what came, like you said, a busing and traffic situation, it's that health aspect of it is something that I think has been fun to, and I mean, MassDOT is the first one to say the best way to rectify traffic is to have more people bike and walk. So, and not everyone can do that, right. But the more that we can do that and encourage it and make it a town-wide effort. I know even from other communities that they do it, it's more success that comes about. So, so it's twofold. There's the traffic side, and that's what, and Noel's been great, on our kickoff day, I think he lives in, does he live in Dedham or?
Yeah.
He biked all the way from Dedham to school that day, just to encourage it. So it's a nice, that's a nice aspect of the committee that, that sort of overlaps with health and
Yeah,
wellness
yeah,
because it's
absolutely.
encouraging health and walking and that, so, yeah.
Nice.
Dr. Donahue?
First of all, I want to say, Kristen, I hope you got a draft choice for the trade there.
Oh. I was very proud of myself for saying, you really should.
As we get into the teeth of winter and you're dealing with snow complaints, I just want to blanketly say thank you for all your hard work. It's a hard job, and
Yeah.
thank you.
And to that point, there has been a lot of snow complaints, from, there's a congestion problem we know at Tucker that we're working on. And I have to give a big shout out to Joe Lynch from DPW, who is trying to work with us, to clean up some routes and paths that are not necessarily, his jurisdiction or his responsibility, for the safety of, pickup, moms who pick up, and drop off in the mornings. So, again, it's just full circle that when we all work together, all the departments, we all want the betterment of the town for the people that live here and the taxpayers who live here. So yeah, just a shout out to him. I'm grateful for his assistance.
Good.
No high school people on the transportation subcommittee?
There's not, and the one thing that we've reached out to the high school about is we thought about, but Mr. Jett already has a whole program put in place. We were thinking about driving safety, for students, texting and driving safety, but he already does a partnership with our Bella Insurance, where they come, it's called, I don't know if it's a word, and I'll ask you all, but
Distracted driving.
No, it's called distractibility.
Yeah.
It's a whole seminar
Yeah.
where students, they
Yeah.
come in, they train students, they go in a vehicle of what it would be
Yeah,
like
it's
to be
great.
intoxicated when you drive, or what it would be like to that, or what would happen to you if you texted and drove. It's very
Yeah.
effective, but we were trying to think of, at a high school level, what's the most effective education where we do walk to school, safe walk to school routes at the elementary, biking, and walk at middle, but, it's kind of already covered right now, he had said, I reached out to him about that, so.
Well, I think the
yeah.
new traffic pattern I'm assuming from my perspective, I don't come here that often anymore, but, that it's, has helped a lot. And those parking spaces that are that
Yes.
are angled, because when I would come and go and drop the boys off, the thing that upset me the most was the preschoolers that were coming and getting dropped off and walking across that area.
Absolutely.
And that one-way piece, from my limited experience now, seems to have really alleviated the pedestrian.
Yes,
issue.
I forgot that
You know, that's really-
that was, last year.
Scary
Yes,
for me.
and and myself as chair last year and as a parent.
Yeah.
And Dr. Pavlicek will
Especially
say
all
he
these young
heard it
drivers.
more than once from me. So I commend him, because he was the one who kind of came up with the idea that we're gonna mainstream
That's
one
great.
way in, one way out. And
Yeah.
the extra parking has been great too, because I too had many complaints from parents, because everything is pick up, drop off at the field house, and that it was poorly lit,
Yeah.
it was so dangerous.
Yeah, it was
There's,
bad.
you have two ways coming in, buses, kids getting off from
Yeah.
sports, a kid coming out with the violin, a mom with the baby, it was just.
And it was the preschoolers in the
Yep,
morning that was the
coming in,
scariest part
But,
for me.
but
Yep.
even in that 3 to 9
Great.
type, so
Yep.
that is much, that whole traffic flow is greatly improved this year, so grateful for that.
Can I just say one thing? So in terms of the crossover between different committees, is that when we were talking about some of the substance use issues that we were concerned with health and wellness, Rich Garino, who does the driver's ed, said, we're about to revamp our driver's ed curriculum. We really need to put some things in here about X, Y, or Z. So it's just great how the different pieces can feed off. Like, if he hadn't been at that meeting, we wouldn't have realized that he was rewriting driver's ed and that he could add in some safety things. So it's another way that high school folks, kids, hopefully are getting some information as well. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Facilities Subcommittee was formed over 15 years ago with a single charge, which was to develop a comprehensive facilities management plan for the schools. And 15 years later, I'm pleased to report that we're finally on the verge of accomplishing that goal. We do have a draft. As you might recall, late summer, we engaged a consultant, and part of the requirements for that consultant were to develop a comprehensive way to assess the condition of the schools. That's been accomplished, and going forward to recommend priorities and effectively a 20-year capital plan for the schools. So before the end of the school year, we will be coming back to the school committee with such a plan for your review and approval.
Excellent. Yeah, 15 years, wow.
Can I ask a question on that? So the facilities subcommittee, though, is that just a school subcommittee, or is it the town subcommittee that we have, that you,
Schools.
it's just a school one? Okay. And then you're on it with, and then Dr. Pavlicek
Correct.
deals with it, okay. So my question is, you know, with issues coming up, again, I know that we had the NASDAQ meeting, the NASDAQ presentation rather, a couple of weeks ago. But this would be an area that, for the further research that we do and the further action steps that we, you know, will take about what, you know, as we meet the needs of the enrollment issue. This would be something that they would sort of charge and investigate and then bring back to the committee?
Yes.
Okay.
You mean looking at the space that we might need?
Right.
Okay,
Mhm.
yeah.
Town school consolidation.
Town School Consolidation Committee. This committee, this subcommittee works with the town administrator to try to find ways in which we can be more efficient and maybe share operations or personnel or work in processes together. Mike Zulis did some great work on this last year and maybe in previous years.
Mike Zulis, you said?
Pardon me?
Zulis?
Zulis,
Yeah.
yeah, former school committee member. And I believe that Dr. Pavlicek was also heavily involved in this. We've already mentioned Dr. Pavlicek on finance, transportation, facilities, and this. It's clear that he also has a lot of subcommittee work that he's doing as well. This particular committee has not met this year simply because of the transition, simply for several reasons. I'm new. The town administrator was transitioning out. The new one is transitioning in. And as the new one has very recently transitioned in, he's been hit with the budget situation, and I'm not sure that this would be high on his list. However, once we move through that budget process a little more, we will be meeting before the end of this school year.
And is this the one that Bill Ritchie, this is concerning Bill Ritchie's role consolidating, or is that something completely different?
No, this is different.
Different,
This was.
too many consolidation words.
This was a strong interest of Selectman Hurd, who thought, I think correctly, that
Oh, I see.
there might be some opportunities for the town and schools to look at operations and to consolidate where that might be appropriate.
Got it,
Yeah.
got it.
So the two recommendations that came out of there thus far were to to update the accounting system and purchase a software package. And then second, to create a chief procurement officer.
Got it.
But I think there's more work to be done there.
Okay, good. Excellent.
Strategic planning?
Strategic planning. So, this subcommittee, worked its way through the full school committee last year and really sort of came into its own last spring. And its purpose is to be sort of the third pillar of our long-range planning to complement the facilities, long-range planning and the finance subcommittee's financial long-range planning with a curriculum-based long-range strategic planning. to map out where we are and where we want to go. So this year, this past 6 months or so, 4 months, we've been meeting in working groups, identifying and assessing sort of where we are as a district. And that work product is in the process of being refined. And then the next action steps are to share that work product with several educational experts, with the rest of the full committee, and based on their recommendations and their input, map out where we go from there. And of course, as we move through that, and I would expect the next 6 months or so, obviously, to your point earlier, Kristen, you know, we will post the working group times, and, you know, we would love, we expect input from those of you who are not on the subcommittee into that product, so that when we deliver that product, it's, you know, we're all invested, we all sort of know what's going on, and we can take things from there.
Are there things you could send now? Because I honestly don't really know.
Yeah,
Didn't we send those out?
Yeah, we sent out the charges.
Could
Not-
we resend
I would
those?
say,
Yeah, not yet.
yeah,
So the step that Dr. Donahue's referring to was that each of the working groups was supposed to produce kind of a white paper document that we would engage some national experts on, kind of questions and thoughts. We're almost there. So obviously, once those are finalized, we could circulate those, but we can certainly circulate the charges in the interim.
Yeah, if you could resend, I know that was a while ago that you sent that, so, because you said it was 3 pillars. The first one was facilities, long range, finances, long range.
so,
And what's the
and then this, the academic, long range.
Oh,
You know, no, so some
Got it.
macro pillars, but then, yes, within the academic long range, yeah,
Okay.
so it's identifying where sort of we want to bring the district as we move into the 21st century.
And who's on the committee?
So the school committee members are myself, Chair Walker, and then there is the superintendent, assistant superintendent Sheena is on there. There's Principal Jett, Principal Elaine Jemai McNeil, and then Dr. Spalding, and then our experts, our community experts. We've had some attrition with those.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Steve Paxia, Michael Middleton, and Spencer Blasdale. Michael Middleton got a job in New York, so he isn't with us any longer except in spirit. But as each of those, we had planned to engage a facilitator. We didn't really get much interest in that. So to their credit, Steve Paxia, Spencer Blasdale, and our own Dr. Karen Spalding each chaired a work group. So they get quite a bit of credit for keeping that process moving.
And what are their work groups?
So the work groups were,
They take one.
The facilities, finances?
No, no,
No.
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 so
I'm listening to her.
one focused on data, how we use data. The second focused on a description of the system description and core, and the third focused on technology, how we use technology.
Okay. And is this the one that we had approved the $10,000 for some expert?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a little more than that, but yes.
So have we used that?
No.
Oh,
Not
okay.
yet. But we do expect to engage the experts, so that
okay.
we'll be using
And I
some
know
of
you
the
did
time.
have some meetings, and you had some working group meetings
Right.
that other people went to.
Right.
But I would, it sounds really interesting, and I'd like to know more about it. I could reread what you sent me, but if you wanted to resend it to me, that would be good too.
Happily.
Thank you.
And can I say, I went to one or two of them, and Dr. Pavlicek's on one of those committees too, right, aren't you? On
Yeah.
Oh,
technology?
yeah, good
Yeah.
point.
So we've dragooned a lot of people into the working
Right,
groups.
right, yeah.
So,
So in addition to all of us being on the different subcommittees, the staff are also on, the principals,
Right.
and Janet, and Mary, and there's a lot of people involved.
Yeah, I was on
Important
the,
stuff.
I worked with the group that did the mission, We looked at the mission statement of the schools, and it was really fascinating work group. And we came up, it was really good. Spencer was the group leader, and Barbara Wright was involved, Dr. Jamar was involved. Martine Fisher was in that group. Kat DeRoche was in that group. It was it was a really, really active group, and a lot came out of it. I know we came up with the one-page document. I'm not sure where that stands right now.
Is that what's waiting to be approved?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So
that's
it's,
Okay. What about the other committees? The SPED committee, aren't you on the special ed PAC? Is that,
That hasn't been very active, so I didn't include subcommittees. There are some other things like MFE, capital plan, capital planning, MPEG, formerly CPAC, that hasn't been that active. So technically, those aren't subcommittees, but if anyone wants to
Can I ask a
report on
question?
those.
CPAC hasn't been active this year, really?
No, I haven't
Oh,
been
that we,
active.
that to go to, I was
So,
gonna say,
but-
yeah.
So
They haven't.
that, it was never technically a
Right.
subcommittee, but
Mhm.
right,
Just having a
there was
representative on.
there was some concern that their priorities weren't being addressed, they weren't being heard. Since Tracy has come on, that
That's changed.
has completely gone away.
Mhm.
but I think the point is that there are other things that aren't subcommittees that we have formal school committee
Representatives,
representation
yeah.
at. So one of them is the the special ed PAC meeting,
Yeah.
which hasn't been as involved, but if somebody else wanted to be involved in that, they could.
Yeah, but as I said, I think that was a stopgap measure
Yeah.
because they didn't feel like.
Yep,
Yeah.
and now things are better.
Mhm.
Now
Yep.
things are completely,
traffic.
completely different.
And then MPEG, are you still doing MPEG?
Yes, I am.
Can you,
What, yeah.
Oh,
What do you,
okay,
what
so
happens with
the
that?
the school committee
Yeah.
has a seat on that board, that's me.
Uh-huh.
And we meet with Mike Lynch, the
Mhm.
director, and talk about, look at the budget and where it is, and talk about the programming, and what's coming up, and, how much can be handled, and
So can I ask a question? So it's the programming for Milton Access Cable, basically, for the town?
yes.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying that we come up with ideas.
No, I didn't, well, I
No, I
didn't
mean,
know,
he
yeah.
shares what's happening with programming and,
Yeah.
whether he's out there looking for more, right now,
Yeah.
he said he's pretty much at capacity, which is
Good.
actually a
That's
really
good.
good
Yeah.
thing. Things are really vibrant. Just talk about staffing needs and things like that.
And is it also like issues, like to have a school committee, I guess my question is like, why a school committee reps there, but maybe like, I know that we have, I know they film the school committee meetings and we have, Mr. Vega has the sports show, but is it, and I know they had the concussion, but is it also like to maybe come up with ideas that would be beneficial, like on school issues, to be able to do
Right.
stories on a documentary, well,
Yeah, to just have our seat at the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
who was on
There.
that committee? Bernie Lynch,
Yes.
Yeah.
Mike,
Yes.
Marvin
Becky
Gordon.
Padero's on it.
Marvin Gordon,
Marvin-
Becky's still on it?
Becky's still on it.
Okay.
Frank Giuliano.
Yeah, the former
Superintendent of
superintendent,
schools, okay.
Frank, and then, a couple other people whose names I'm
okay.
sorry, I don't
That's okay.
remember.
And can I ask another
Wow,
question?
it's amazing.
Does Mike Lynch, it's an appointed committee, and does Mike Lynch come up with the people who are on it? Do you know where that comes from?
I
Or
don't know where,
Glenn or anyone
I
have
don't know
history
how
on
the
that?
committee is actually composed. That's a
Yeah.
very good
I
question.
was just wondering,
don't.
yeah.
Well, MPEG has a board.
Yeah.
It's
So
the-
are they the board then?
It's the MPEG board.
Yeah.
Ah, I see. And again, they have a board
We're,
and,
we're a representative, but.
on the board,
That's
but
it, yeah.
I was just wondering who appoints the board, or how the members come to play, or whatever.
As I said,
Which is
I
interesting.
don't know. I've only
Yeah.
been to,
They have
only
a,
had one meeting or two
they have a
meetings.
charter and bylaws
Yeah.
that dictate how people are appointed.
They're a nonprofit. so
They're a
they
nonprofit.
have charter
I
bylaws.
see, okay,
And we've just always been asked to have a seat, so
yeah,
Right.
thanks for
Yeah.
doing that.
okay, great.
And MFE,
Yes, that is a requirement of the bylaws, that a member of the school committee sit on the Milton Foundation for Education and vote as a member of the foundation.
So you would want that. Right?
So your MFE journey continues. Your
This will be my
20-year
10th
stint.
year as the,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a wonderful organization. There, a lot happened the other night at the meeting. I don't think any of that is public knowledge yet, but the 20th anniversary grant will be awarded, and celebration planning is ongoing, and a lot of really wonderful stuff happening.
That's great.
Always. Monster Dash was a huge success. Science for Scientists continues to grow and expand and be wonderfully received by the students, the teachers, and the parents. It's a wonderful organization, and it grows every year. We have, I don't know how many board members, 29 maybe now.
a big
I highly recommend parents in the community, if they would like to get involved. You don't have to sit on the board, but you can volunteer for different aspects of it, whether you help with Monster Dash, you help with Celebration, or you want to get involved in something. It's a wonderful, wonderful organization. It really there to support teachers.
Yep.
The grants were the foundation of it, and that's really where it started, giving grants to teachers, and then it's grown from there, but really it's there to support teachers. So,
Did we miss any?
I don't think so.
Glenn and Janet, did we miss any others?
That's it.
I think
What does
it
it mean
was
he's gonna
good.
go
Thank
to-
you for recommending it. It's good to have a touch base of what's going on.
Okay.
Enough to keep us busy.
Finance, move to approve warrant number 31 dated February 2nd, 2017, in the amount of $458,688.78.
Second.
Moved by Walker, seconded by Craighead. On the motion, all in favor? It's unanimous. Move to approve warrant number 33 dated February 8th, 2017, in the amount of $508,768.49.
Second.
Moved by Walker, seconded by Varela. On the motion, all in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Question.
Question?
So this is an example on Finance Subcommittee report, and I'm happy that, we get this done and, we approve all that. But I still have no sense of what happened at the Finance Subcommittee meeting. So in
Yep.
terms of reporting out, can we get more information on that?
It was snowed out.
Oh, so that's why there was no information. Well, okay.
We didn't have a meeting. Yeah.
Okay, well, you're just playing with me. How about the last few meetings?
Well, we don't always get the minutes, like.
No, that's what I'm saying, that's the
Worked on
point,
the
is that it would
budget.
be helpful to hear a little more about what you're doing at Finance Subcommittee. No?
Sure. I mean, but normally when we do something, we have a recommendation to discuss with you, but
Okay, so if you didn't have a meeting this week because it was snowed out, but when you had, like, the last couple of meetings, maybe every couple of times, you can give us a little more information about what actually happened. What was the discussion? I mean, they're public meetings, so it's not like, is
yeah,
that-
I'm not sure how I would distinguish between what we talked about and what we're recommending. Normally, so if we talked about a cut list, we have a cut list that we're recommending that you vote on.
Right.
I mean, we talk about things that are
Right.
actions
Well,
for.
yeah, no, I see, and you report back on the
So we
actions, and that
send
makes
out-
sense.
We send out the agenda that says,
Right.
here are the things we're going to be talking about,
Mhm.
with the idea
Right.
that ultimately those will come to you for discussion and approval.
And really all we've talked about is the budget for like the last
Yeah.
2 months.
2 months, right.
Literally, I mean, quarterly reports, other things, we haven't
Right.
brought them to here because
Right.
we're not
So
there.
when I've attended them, there's a lot more discussion than here is just the end result, and that just might be the way it is, and that's fine. But then maybe there's another way to, especially during these budget times, is to have more information or more discussion about it. I mean, and I'm not suggesting changing the time. When I can get there early, I'd be happy to come early. But it doesn't feel like there's a lot of I don't know, just feels like there could be more information somehow, and I don't have the solution for that, but I think it's important for there be as much information about the Finance Subcommittee discussions as possible.
So let's start with the minutes. Let's see if we can
Okay.
get the minutes posted.
And it was helpful to get the agendas,
Mhm.
so could we, and you do
If
have
they-
more
she
things on
does.
the
She's-
agendas. No, I'm saying,
Charlene still sends
I'm
them.
saying it's
Yeah.
been helpful to get the
Yeah.
agendas, and there's
Yeah.
been more than 1 or 2 items on the agendas. There's definitely been stuff on there. So if she can just keep sending them, that would be great. And hearing back more from minutes, that would be really helpful. and timely, I think, at this time of budget process. Thank you.
Policy Subcommittee?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I moved it. Need a second. Thank you.
Oh, I seconded it.
I third.
I did it.
My goal is to never say anything. Ever.
We're adjourned.
That's my goal.
Just gonna remain silent.